One of the most common objections to our theory of prices is the damage a lot of economic production does to the environment, which does not seem to be priced into the product. Pollution is just one of many examples where other people are bearing some of the burdens of production without compensation. Air pollution, for example, is known to cause many health problems, such as asthma and cancer. These effects raise the opportunity cost of production. People are giving up their health, but they're not part of the decision to make or buy that product. This is a class of problems we refer to as externalities. Let's think about supply and demand and how they relate to the marginal benefit and marginal cost of production. Supply, you'll remember, represents the marginal cost of production. Supply tells us the value of the resources needed to make each unit of this product. And it's not just the explicit cost, but the implicit cost too. Supply is set by the opportunity cost of the resources used. And so it internalizes all of the consequences of production. Usually, pollution is an exception to that rule. Firms which create air pollution, for example, do not have to pay anything in order to spew pollutants into the air, and they're not on the hook for any of the consequences of that air pollution. In this case, supply will not internalize all of the consequences of production. In this case, the private marginal cost that the firm faces is less than the total marginal cost that society faces. The social marginal costs are higher, which we can represent with this red line on the graph. Market forces will drive us to this outcome. This is the outcome we get when consumers and firms follow their private incentives. But this is the outcome we want. This is where the total costs to society have been taken into account and the efficient outcome reached. When a baker bakes bread, in a way, they're harming society by using precious resources that could be used for other things. Those harms are represented by supply, and the benefits of their production are represented by demand. Our usual market outcome has the baker baking only the number of loaves of bread where the benefits are higher than the harms. But not here. Producers in this market are producing past that point, and some of what they produce is doing more harm to society than good. We represent that with this deadweight loss here. Negative externalities are external costs, which are paid by people other than the consumers or producers trading in the market. These are things like the harm to people's health due to pollution. Negative externalities mean the social marginal cost is higher than the private marginal cost. Because of that, negative externalities result in overproduction. But producers are not the only ones who create negative externalities. We cast shame on the factories dumping harmful chemicals into the river, but what about the everyday folks driving their cars around, causing asthma? Or the smokers whose secondhand smoke causes cancer? These are negative externalities created by the consumer. And in those instances, they mean the social marginal benefit of consumption is lower than the private marginal benefit. Demand represents the marginal benefit to consumers from consumption because their willingness to pay reflects the opportunity cost of spending their money here instead of on something else. Normally, we don't need to consider anyone except the consumer when we think about social benefits. Consuming a loaf of bread benefits you and you only. That's the end of the list. So the benefit to society is equal to the benefit you get since you're a member of society. That's not the case when there's a negative externality from consumption. Now your consumption is actively harming other people, and so the benefit to society is less than the benefit to consumers. When everyone follows their private incentives, this is the outcome we get. Consumers will choose to buy a product if the benefit to them is higher than the cost to them. And they don't consider the harms their consumption does to others. This outcome is what we would get if they did. This is the outcome we want because those harms are internalized by the social marginal benefit. Here we can see another example of deadweight loss due to overconsumption. The economics of externalities tells us we have too much of the negative externalities. We have too much air pollution and land pollution and water pollution and visual pollution and noise pollution and light pollution and soil pollution, and the list would go on. The problem here is that these costs are external to the decision makers in the market. The producers and consumers are not on the hook for these costs, and so they don't include them in their decision about how much to produce and consume.